Hello friends, I'm Johnny Rowland. Welcome. Many of you know me from our shooting show television program. Many of you know us from our radio shows. Let me invite you to join us weekdays on WNQM 1300 there in Nashville, Tennessee. Our flagship station, they cover it on antenna radio, Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Northern Alabama. And we stream, of course, worldwide on the internet. That's WNQM1300.com. And we're on at 2 o'clock Central and our evening edition again at 10 o'clock Central Time. So whatever time zone you're in, you can stream live. Now we're working on getting our stream up on Facebook and YouTube and other various venues out there. So we are in a critical time. You'll notice that I'm sitting at a card table here, and we got a bunch of poker chips. We got red and blue, and I think that's fairly appropriate here. Now we have a gun and we have a knife. You know, why did people bring guns and knives to their card games? Because they worried about their other players cheating, because they wanted to ensure it was going to be an honest card game. All right, this is where we are in our country. We've had a dishonest card game where we had people voting for Donald Trump, someone they believed in, not voting so much for Trump himself, but voting for what he stands for and the concept of a free America. That's the big thing that the liberal socialists hate. They don't hate Donald Trump. He was their darling until he ran for president, because he would give money to all the politicians. You know, he's trying to be friends to everybody. But here's the problem. When he began to represent us as basic, hardworking, Christian America, gun-owning America, well, that's when he became a target. So friends, now, and I honestly believe that President Trump will be reelected, because the law gives him a number of protections that will work toward a fair election. You see, we have a situation here, and I believe that the COVID nonsense, it's the flu, and I'm sorry anybody's sick, but no more people have died. You know, it's amazing how the numbers, some of the websites, even Drudge, what used to be a conservative site, now they've turned into an anti-Trump site, but they're saying 220 or 30,000 people have died from COVID. That's an outright lie. It's a lie. Okay, it's a lie. You don't have to believe me. Go over to the CDC website, and you'll see that no more people have died this year. In fact, a few less this year than last year and the year before. So, and of course, there's no flu deaths, and realize that by far the majority of people that have died from the so-called COVID have died, they're over 70 years of age. And so in Medicare, the hospitals get a like 20% bonus if someone died from COVID. This is how you get people who are in motorcycle wrecks dying from, oh, they died from COVID, darn, you know. So it is a scam from the word go, and I honestly believe that this lockdown and this masking nonsense, and you know, when 85% of the people that have gotten the flu wore masks almost all the time, and there are all kinds of real scientists that are saying the masks don't work anyway. Now, we have a mask that does work, but it wasn't distributed to the general public. The mask that does work is called the NBC mask, nuclear biological chemical, covers the entire face, the eyes, the nose, the mouth. If this thing had been real, if we had had people like dying from plague along the highway out here, we would have been, every company in the U.S. would have stopped making cars, washing machines, or computers. Everybody would have gone to making the NBC mask, and every citizen would be issued an NBC mask, but they hadn't done that because it's bogus, friends. And I honestly believe that when the impeachment nonsense, when they failed on that, nothing else, nothing was working. They said, you know what? We can put people in lockdown. We can scare them to death, and they won't go to the polls. We can have mail-in ballots. Well, what do you have when you have mail-in ballots? You got a warehouse full of ballots, whatever you need. So it doesn't matter who votes. Joseph Stalin said, doesn't matter as much who votes as who counts the vote. And that's where we are now. And let me remind you of something here, friends. If we don't have a spiritual ingredient, this is our first source of strength. You can have all the guns and knives you want, but if you don't have spiritual commitment, you've got nothing. And quickly, I will go to 2 Chronicles, chapter 7, verse 14. It says here, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now that healing may not be pleasant. You know, as a country, we've got a lot to answer for, friends. We've killed over 60 million babies. And by the way, I invite you to go to johnnyrowland.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page there, and you will see a music video called What Have I Done? What Kind of World? And I wrote this song from the standpoint of the unborn child. And when we talk communists here, see, there's nothing. The motto of the communists is the end justifies the means, whatever that is. No matter how many people we have to kill to get to the end, we will. No, that's not right. But that's how they operate. There's nothing they won't do. And you think about this. Any society that promotes the wholesale murder of innocent children, people the most vulnerable in our population, what won't they do? Think about it. When we have videos of these criminals that are selling baby parts that are taken from tiny babies, and they've admitted this. The people doing this, Planned Parenthood, they've admitted this. They take organs from babies while the little heart's still beating. What? How can this be? And promoted and paid for by money from the taxpayer or the printed money from the federal government, whatever you want to call it. So there's three things that we've got to do in our country. One, we've got to have term limits on career politicians. Got to. You realize Nancy Pelosi has been in office over 30 some odd years. You realize that Maxine Waters, another real winner, has been there around 30 years. You can't get them out. They get control of the system, and they're very difficult to get out. We've got to have term limits on politicians. We've got to stop printing money. And the other thing, because here's the thing, money can be printed for whatever goofy scheme the people in charge want to do. You know, how can we finance wars for 20 years? How do we know when we won? All right, when we're printing the money that can't do it. When you can literally, and then you punish the producers out there by taking it away in taxes, but you print for whatever goofy scheme you want to do, can't work, friends, 100% chance of failure. The other thing that we must do, we've got to have an electoral system for the states, because the Electoral College has literally saved our country before. And now we have population centers. Realize the globalists want to take people off the land, put them in cities where they can be more easily managed. And so we've got to have an electoral system for the states. New York City rules the whole state of New York. California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, a few other cities rule California. The rural areas have no say-so. Here in Arizona, Phoenix rules, essentially, Maricopa County rules the rest of the state. That's not right. And I got nothing against those folks. They need to vote on what goes on in their area. They don't need to decide what goes on down here in Tombstone or over in Flagstaff or out in Yuma. They don't, because they're not qualified to do that. We've got to have an electoral system for the states if we're to survive this country. Friends, please remember, that the globalists have an aim of eliminating 12 out of every 13 people on the planet. And right now, we as a country are in the battle of our country's life, probably even more so than in 1861, because now the enemy is among us. We don't have a blue and a gray. We don't sure have a blue and a red, our colors here. And what we've got to do is our part for our country. Please join us in praying for our country and the future of our system as Americans. And we appreciate you being here. Please join us on the radio, WNQM 1300 and Nashville, Tennessee. It streams worldwide twice daily. And we're certainly appreciative of you folks being there. We'll see you on the next program.